I think those are the things that Nigerians expect as part of the lessons of the Rivers State experience. The various cases filed, the president referred to them as almost about 40 in the various courts, should go on and be determined. Once there were declarations sought in those suits, the court should pronounce on the legality or otherwise of the actions so that they can guide us and become useful precedent when this situation may present itself in future. I do not agree that those suits are academic or that they have been overtaken by events. The court should proceed to determine the declaration sought to guide our actions in future. Because the reason why we have the judiciary is that when parties have disputes between government, between individuals, there must be some definitive pronouncement from the third arm of government, being the judiciary, that will guide all combatants in order to achieve peace and stability. So I expect that the Supreme Court will proceed to determine that suit filed by the PDP governors and the other suits that are filed at the Federal High Court by various interest groups, SERAP, people from Rivers, human rights organizations and civil society organizations and political parties. Those cases should be determined so that it will be important for us to know. Because Section 305 has become a controversial section inserted in the Constitution, and especially in terms of the powers granted to the president, whether when there is need to declare a state of emergency, the consequential powers to be exercised by the president must be stated definitely. Because, you know, if people exercise their mandate to elect others into office, such as they did to Governor Siminalayi Fubara and all the members of the House of Assembly, it's a sacred mandate that should be preserved at all costs. So if there's a reason for a single individual, such as the president, with all due respect, to interfere with that mandate, the circumstances should be spelled out within the Constitution, whether it will be extended to removing those that were elected by the people. And I think that's the area of the controversy, whether the president should have sacked the governor, whether he should have suspended, as it were, all elected democratic officers of Rivers State in the course of this crisis. Those are matters that the court must determine one way or the other. And I think it's one of the lessons we should take from this exercise. Then additionally, is that based on Section 305, those that have exercised oversight functions over the state of emergency period, the president, the Federal Executive Council, the National Assembly, should render a report to the people of Nigeria. I mean, Rivers is one of the richest states in Nigeria. There are resources there. Somebody acted for 6 months as a single individual. What is his report? What did he do with the resources? I mean, what is the state of the handover? Those matters should become transparent to guide us. You know, how did he manage the resources of Rivers State? What were the decisions that he took? What did he leave behind? With all due respect, that Nigerians are entitled to know from the president who exercised oversight, who was exercising oversight responsibilities over the sole administrator, from the National Assembly, in terms of accountability and transparency. How much was received during this period, and what was it used for? What were the powers and the nature of those powers exercised by the sole administrator? I mean, you saw that there were protests in Rivers State. Retirees are claiming not to have been paid. The sole administrator himself said he saved 5 billion. I mean, so you can't just be talking to people extraneously. There must be facts. How much did he receive? And then how was it expended? So I expect that those should be part of the lessons that we can take from this exercise to know that indeed there was prudent management of that tenure on behalf of the people of Rivers State.
Speaking of lessons, just before I yield the floor to my colleagues, you have expressed a maverick point of view there, saying that the courts should go ahead to determine the interpretation of Section 305, all the suits. But Ms. Adegboruwa, I'm going to ask you pointedly. Some have said the judiciary, particularly under this current administration, is more political than legal. So can we rely upon the judiciary, if those suits go ahead, to give an appropriate interpretation of Section 305 of the Constitution?
I think that this is a matter of perception, and perception also determines reality. So it's important that, the judiciary must be seen, to be doing justice on all occasions. But like I maintain always, Bukola, when this matter comes up for discussion, with all humility, past 30 years or more that I have been going in and out of the courts, I will probably speak from my own personal experience that I cannot say wholeheartedly that the judiciary is political, the judiciary is biased, the judiciary is corrupt. So that's why I say it's a matter of perception, because I go in and out of these courts and I handle political cases, I handle all manner of cases. I have not had the opportunity that will lead me to those conclusions to say that, indeed, the negative. But the perception of the public, in terms of how these cases are managed, is important. For instance, the cases filed in the Supreme Court, I thought that because of the nature of the tenure granted to the sole administrator, 6 months, those cases should have been accelerated and determined one way or the other so that parties will know their fate. But that is not to say that, the failure to determine them then will mean that the judiciary is apolitical or indeed biased one way or the other. But I think, like I said, perception is important, because indeed, when disputes arise between one person or the other, between one function of government or the other, everybody is expecting the judiciary to give a definitive pronouncement that will guide people so that nobody will have excuse to take the laws into his hands or act beyond the powers granted by the Constitution. So the judiciary should interpret the law at all times that will guide human conduct and the actions of those who are in power. So to that extent, maybe one way or the other, the expectations may not have been met in terms of the expeditious determination of those cases. But I think that can be remedied now with the suggestion I gave earlier, that in order not to be seen as if those cases were deliberately delayed and frustrated, the judiciary should go ahead to determine them based on the declarations sought and give pronouncements and give interpretation as to the nature of power to be exercised by the president if there is any need to declare a state of emergency, which I hope will never happen in the history of this country again.